Hello and welcome back to the Sci-Fi Nerd channel. The Dracula 2020 miniseries isn't your average vampire tale. It's smart, twisted and unsettling, using gothic horror to create some bone-chilling moments. So let's go right into the video, starting with practically the original novel. This episode is done from the perspective of Jonathan Harker, explaining his story in flashbacks. Harker, who's an estate agent, visits Dracula, only to find himself becoming weaker and Dracula becoming stronger. In the present, Sister Agatha, who is listening to Harker's story, is revealed to be Agatha Van Helsing, who is here to learn about Dracula. In the end, Dracula attacks the convent in a brutal siege, with the plot twist being quite good. Dracula eventually escapes in a box, bound for England. This is quite a good series opener, one of the better I've seen in a long time, and it makes the audience excited for what's to come. Personally, I'd give it an 8 out of 10. And then, this episode makes way for... This episode also adapts some of Bram Stoker's original work, taking place on the boat the Demeter, bound for England. There is a very diverse crew, who each have secrets of their own. And, of course, Dracula feeds on them one by one. In a small plot twist, Sister Agatha is also revealed to have survived and be on board the boat. By the end, Agatha uses her new knowledge and Dracula's own fears against him, with Dracula seemingly drowning as the ship burns off the coast of England. This episode was just amazing, honestly, and my favourite out of all of the episodes. This one gets a 9 out of 10. Episode 2 was quite good, but you know what wasn't? Yeah, this episode was not as good. Dracula wakes up from the bottom of the sea 100 years later. It's now modern day, and Dracula is captured by the Jonathan Harker Foundation, led by Zoe Helsing, a descendant of Agatha Helsing. Dracula escapes, meeting a woman called Lucy, who is terminally ill. After a while, it is revealed that all of Dracula's rules about sunlight and more are just self-imposed limitations driven by shame and fear. In a pretty dramatic twist at the end, he chooses to die, finally accepting his death. This episode was just okay, but not as good as the others. I'd rate it a 6 out of 10. One of its redeeming factors was its... One of the best parts about this series was the acting. It was just superb, especially Claes Bang, the actor for Dracula, who felt like Dracula each and every episode, building up tension and making you watch every little thing he did. Alongside that, Dolly Wells' Agatha was not that bad, mixing the sarcastic and smart together to make a character you can root for. It truly feels like a battle between her and Dracula. Dracula was pretty amazing in this, and he made for some pretty good... This is one of my favourite horror series, because it relies heavily on tension and horror, with many different genres being used. There's the psychological, with the constant dread that Dracula is watching, plotting, manipulating. Alongside that, there is plenty of body horror, with rotting skin and blood in many places. Episode 2 is the best for me, personally, because it uses the feelings of tension and horror throughout the story. You're always tense while watching. For a hardcore horror fan, it's probably mild, but a casual horror fan will definitely find it creepy. I also believe scares are significantly helped by the... I think the Dracula soundtrack is quite good, effectively creating tension as it should. But if you're coming here expecting memorable tunes or catchy themes, you've come to the wrong place. While good for ambience, nothing is particularly stand out. However, I do think that works for this series, especially for the first 2 episodes, building up the gothic dread and horror. Dracula was pretty good. I mostly enjoyed it, though episode 3 did slightly lower my view, but overall I thought it did what it aimed to, create a chilling and complex view into the psyche of one of horror's most iconic villains, while creating fresh and new plot twists. For plot, it gets 7.5 out of 10, for acting, 8 out of 10, for scares, 8.5 out of 10, and for soundtrack, 6 out of 10. On the movie meter, that is a 30 out of 40. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video. The BBC did quite well with the series, especially with the collaboration with Netflix, especially considering the lack of horror that the BBC usually have. I do hope the BBC continue to make horror series, maybe based on other classic horror monsters like Frankenstein or the werewolf. But until they do, this is the series we're stuck with. Not that that's a bad thing, I love this series. And if you did too, please leave a like and subscribe. I hope to see you again some other time. Bye!